He was rising fast, a young man with undeniable charm, raw talent, and a future that seemed limitless. Audiences adored him, producers wanted him, and his star was just beginning to blaze across Hollywood's sky. But behind the smiles, the scripts, and the steady climb to fame, fate had written a far darker ending, one that no one saw coming. A simple encounter, a rejected advance, and a single lie was all it took to spark a deadly chain of events. This is not just the story of an actor gone too soon. It's a cautionary tale about jealousy, deceit, and how a moment of vindictiveness shattered a life that was only beginning to shine. This is the haunting story of Merlin Santana, a bright light that was extinguished because of a lie. Before the world saw him light up television screens with his charm and talent, Merlin Santana was just a baby fighting for his life in a New York hospital. Born prematurely on March 14, 1976, in Washington Heights to Dominican parents, doctors gave him only a 50% chance of survival. But when he defied the odds, his mother believed it was nothing short of a miracle and named him Merlin. From that moment on, it felt as if he was destined for something truly extraordinary. By the age of 3, Merlin had already stepped into the world of entertainment. A talent scout discovered him, and his natural charisma quickly landed him in a national fast food commercial. His screen presence didn't go unnoticed. Soon, Bill Cosby handpicked him for a recurring role on The Cosby Show, introducing Merlin to a wider audience. From there, his early career flourished. He played Marvin in Major Dad, Ronald Greggs in Law and Order, and Mikey Harris in Line of Duty, Street War. Determined to pursue his dreams, he moved to Los Angeles in 1992, where he successfully transitioned from child star to respected young actor. While many around him succumbed to the temptations of Hollywood, Merlin stayed grounded. He was focused, mature, and deliberately avoided the destructive paths of excess and partying that had derailed so many of his peers. His big break came with The Steve Harvey Show, where he played Romeo Santana from 1996 to 2002. With his infectious smile, slick style, and effortless delivery, Merlin quickly became a fan favorite. His portrayal of Romeo, a street-smart ladies' man with a soft heart, resonated deeply with viewers, especially young people who saw themselves reflected in his character. The role brought Merlin widespread recognition and industry praise, earning him several nominations, including the NCLR Bravo Award and multiple NAACP Image Awards. But beyond the spotlight, Merlin was much more than a teen heartthrob. He was also a dedicated artist who poured himself into music and writing. He rapped under the moniker Reggae Santana and was working toward releasing a full project that would reflect his roots, his pride in his Afro-Latino identity, and his view of the world. Friends said he was meticulous, refusing to put out anything unless it met his standards. He had ambitions of becoming a filmmaker and often talked about creating opportunities for young actors of color who faced the same barriers he had encountered. Despite being surrounded by fame and fortune, Merlin kept a low profile. He wasn't interested in scandal or controversy. His loved ones described him as generous, protective, and deeply spiritual. He maintained close ties with his family, especially his mother, who had supported his career from day one. Those who knew him well often said he had an old soul, wise beyond his years and quietly driven by purpose. But all of that promise was cut short in a matter of seconds. On the evening of November 6, 2002, Merlin and his longtime friend, fellow actor Brandon Adams, met two girls at a Chinese restaurant in Los Angeles. One of the girls was 15-year-old Monique King, a runaway with a troubled past, and her friend. Merlin and Monique exchanged numbers. To Merlin, it may have seemed like a casual, fleeting encounter, but to Monique, it was the beginning of something far more dangerous. Just 2 days later, on November 8th, Monique and her friend visited a house in South Los Angeles, where Merlin, Brandon, and another friend named Galani were hanging out. The atmosphere was relaxed. Drinks were shared, conversations flowed, and music played in the background. But Monique seemed uneasy, distracted. At one point, she stepped outside and got into a waiting SUV. Brandon would later recall that moment vividly, how something about her behavior just fell off. What the young men didn't know was that Monique had told a lie, one that would prove fatal. According to investigators, she had falsely claimed to her boyfriend, 21-year-old Damien Andre Gates, that Merlin and Brandon had sexually assaulted her and secretly recorded it. Enraged by the accusation, Gates, along with his friend Brandon Douglas Bynes, plotted an ambush. Fueled by jealousy, possessiveness, and blind rage, they set out to deliver what they believed was revenge. As Merlin and Brandon left the house and walked toward their car, they were blindsided. Gates and Bynes jumped out from the shadows and opened fire. In the confusion, Brandon managed to escape and flag down help, but it was already too late for Merlin. He had been shot in the back of the head. The bullet entered through the trunk of the car and struck him while he was sitting in the passenger seat. Death was instantaneous. He was only 26. The entertainment industry was stunned. How could such a bright star, a young man with everything ahead of him, be gunned down so senselessly? News of his death spread quickly, and tributes poured in from co-stars, directors, fans, and heartbroken loved ones. The loss wasn't just personal, it felt symbolic. Merlin's death reminded the world of how fleeting life can be, and how one lie can spiral into an unthinkable tragedy. As detectives unraveled the case, the pieces began to fall into place. Monique initially lied about her identity, but after intense questioning, she confessed. Phone records linked her to Gates. Forensic evidence and witness testimonies tied Bynes to the scene. Eventually, all three were arrested and charged. Damien Gates was convicted of first-degree murder and attempted murder. He received a sentence of 70 years to life in prison. Brandon Bynes pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 23 years. Monique King, just 15 at the time of the crime, was tried as an adult. Despite the controversy surrounding her age, the court found her actions premeditated and malicious. She was sentenced to 10 years in the California Youth Authority. She has since been released. In a particularly bitter twist, Monique, whose false accusations set this entire tragedy in motion, is now reportedly active on social media. She's appeared in TikTok videos with her grandchildren, seemingly having moved on with her life. Meanwhile, Merlin's life remains frozen in time, forever 26. The senselessness of his murder continues to haunt those who loved him. His mother, who once watched her son beat the odds in a hospital crib, now visits his grave. His friends and colleagues often speak of what could have been, the movies he might have made, the albums he never got to record, the lives he would have inspired. Yet, even in death, Merlin Santana's light refuses to fade. Fans still share his clips online, recounting how his performances shaped their childhoods. Documentaries and tribute pages celebrate his legacy. His roles, especially Romeo Santana, live on as a testament to his talent, humor, and heart. Merlin's story is more than a cautionary tale. It's a reminder of how easily a life can be stolen, not by chance or misfortune, but by a lie, a jealous heart, a reckless act. He was a miracle from birth, a young man who rose with grace in an industry that chews people up and spits them out. A son, a friend, an artist, and a bright light that was extinguished far too soon. But the glow he left behind continues to shine. Thank you for watching.